Good morning. Today we are waking up to news that Tesla has made significant price cuts in China. And if you remember, I made a video in September last year basically outlining that I think this is exactly the step that Tesla should be taking in China, which is of course a very important market for them because this is the largest EV market in the world. And what I found is that, well, it's just my personal view, but with those large goals that Tesla has as, becoming sort of a Volkswagen, Toyota size of a company, I thought the models are priced a little bit too high, and specifically in the Chinese market, considering that on the one hand side, you have players like on the lower end, like Xiaopeng and BYD, that have actually good products to offer. And on the other hand, companies like NIO basically introducing models like the ET5 that is back then similarly priced to a, let's say, Model 3. And, just given like those new models introduced, for example, by Chinese brands, there was a little bit of a too high price tag for Tesla cars in my point of view. And therefore, this price cut, I think, is just reasonable, the right thing to do, especially given now that also the Chinese economy has been certainly disrupted by COVID-0 policies, and we're now going into seasonally weaker quarters. Of course, as you can see already on the pre-market stock implications, this is not good news because, of course, investors are worried about demand and also about the implications of the profitability of the company. My take is always that, Tesla is in this modus operandi that they want to really cut costs wherever they can while delivering a good product and forward those kind of cost decreases to consumers at some point in time. So they have frequently done so in the past by releasing price cuts only during the inflationary times. That's when the prices actually also for Teslas went up. So in a way, this seems very natural to me. And also, as I pointed out, in terms of positioning, because let's say, for example, now Model 3 in China is now very similarly priced to the BYD Seal. And I would say, these cars are a good comparison to each other, to be honest. What is, of course, a bit of concern is that price cuts in China, I've discussed this here in my Patreon community group, are always subject to some sort of protests in China. So here you see people who bought the Tesla cars before and now are unhappy with the price cuts, of course. There are, some images floating around of people putting the price tag at which they bought the car on as a sticker onto their cars here. So this is a significant branding issue there, which at some point they have to go through. But, as I said before, I think this repositioning had to be done. And in effect, it will ultimately open up a much larger total addressable market. It brings Tesla in direct comparison and competition to BYD, which has been selling very well despite some of the woes. And ultimately, we'll see. That is, I think, the final truth to it. Whether or not the factory efficiency gains and increases in productivity have been as good as they can, kind of counter those price cuts in terms of that the margin can possibly stay more or less intact. Given the intensity of those price cuts, I would now, put a question mark on this. I think they might be, having to also cut on the margins a little bit. But we'll see where this is going forward. So we see pictures here of people queuing at Tesla stores. Got to see whether or not this is new demand or maybe, as I pointed out before, people complaining about those price cuts. It's a tricky topic. And now we'll see how this will, for example, affect NIO. In the past, price cuts, which I mentioned before, that have been frequent before, have not impacted NIO. For example, there was price cuts with the Model Y in the past, but that didn't really impact NIO so far. It may really divert some buyers of the ET5 maybe to Tesla if they choose the lower cost option. And with this move, Tesla is making sure to capture a larger share of this reopening play here in China. So when they start the revenge spending, thereby Tesla has the high volumes. They can certainly benefit from that, I would say. Regarding NIO here, we'll see if they manage to stay at the same price level. That may actually manifest their standing as the competitors to Audi, BMW, Mercedes, and so on, where they will gain customers from. Because I think, frankly, from the quality, especially the interior design, they are on par with this and have a better value proposition and offering than those legacy auto manufacturers. Whereas now, as I always pointed out, see Tesla going more towards rivaling the BYD, Toyotas, and Volkswagens in the lower cost segment. The only unfortunate thing here, in my point of view, is that Tesla has not yet come out with a new China-specific model or a lower cost model. I think that was a strategic mistake by Tesla to not have this ready. They thought they can compete with a tiny lineup and with a model that just stays as it is with small incremental improvements. However, that works in the West, but not so much in the East, in my point of view, because Chinese consumers, they are a little bit more unloyal here and also want always the latest stuff. And I mentioned before how NIO's competitive advantage here seems to become actually their strength in bringing out new models quickly and always have like the fastest stuff to respond to the market. And actually, we may see this continuing going forward. Here I just posted a secret shot which appears to be at the NIO plant, and there is a ET5 Touring, so you can see that might be a very popular model in the European markets. So a smaller car here that might be coming in 2023 as well, I think, and possibly also the ES6 on the NT 2.0 platform. So these models have not been announced at NIO Day, but I would say from what I'm seeing here, like how far they have progressed in R&D, that they are ready to be released soon. And so, this is the increasingly difference between Tesla and NIO. Like I've always pointed out, there are distinct differences in terms of brand, in terms of product, and value proposition. I'm not surprised to see those price cuts by Tesla. In fact, I mentioned already back in September that I'm anticipating them. Of course, it's a pressure and not maybe done in the perfect way now, as you can see, but we'll see going forward. I do think Tesla has a very attractive offering there in China now at these prices and what they're offering in technology. Likewise, for NIO, I think it's maybe right now the best product in the market, let's say for the ET5 and their newer SUVs. And we'll see how much impact we'll see from the macroeconomics, but also from this raging price war here. But ultimately, quite confident in the quality and the underlying business fundamentals there. Let me know your comments down below. Then thank you guys for watching and see you in the next video.